Hi everyone, welcome back to Sports Psych. I'm going to do, here I am, with my Bills hat and my bowling shirt. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is Chapter 2. Apparently I can only do about 5 minutes at a time to get this on, upload things on YouTube. So there is going to be a flurry of new videos, but it won't be quick. See, it's for you NHL goalie fans out there. I did flurry and quick. Okay, very good. All right, so we got that out of the way. So I'm going to do the first part of Chapter 2 on personality. Basically, this first part is going to be about the theories of personality in psychology. So first off, the one that probably is most well known, even though it's very debatable, is the one historically is the first one in terms of the personality theory, and that'd be Freud's psychodynamic theory or psychoanalytic theory. I'm going to focus only on the things I think are most important in terms of dealing with the overlap with sport. So I'm going to focus on his structures of personality rather than his stages of psychosexual development. Okay, so this you probably know, and you probably can say these along with me. What are Freud's three structures of personality? They are the id, the ego, and the superego. Okay, the id is the hedonistic part of personality. It's totally unconscious, and it is also driven by what's known as the pleasure principle. It is going to want to satisfy the unconscious urges of sex and aggression, also known as libido. Okay, so the id is this again inborn part of personality that is striving for sex and aggressiveness. Okay, the ego is the part of personality that's guided by the reality principle. That means that it is mostly conscious, so it is going to deal with basically your daily life, what is going on in reality in terms of what you are aware of. So again, all this talk about the unconscious simply means things that are below your level of awareness. That's why the id is in the unconscious mind, because those sexual aggressive impulses, according to Freud, are unacceptable to our ego, so they're pushed into the unconscious mind. Okay. Then the third branch of personality, according to Freud, is the superego. That's your moral branch of personality, and that's developed by interaction with people in your lives, significant people, parents, clergy people, teachers, other significant people in your life. Then again, that seems pretty clear how your morals would develop. How they develop specifically, if you do something morally right, okay, you get praise for that from, again, these significant others. If you do something that's deemed morally wrong, you are punished for those acts. And since your parents and other people aren't going to be in your life the whole time, basically what happens, according to Freud, is you develop what's known as the ego ideal and your conscience. So the ego ideal is what, according to superego, what they would want it would want the ego to be. That is always doing the morally right thing. No sex, no aggression, anything like that. So basically, it's a polar opposite of the id. Right, and the conscience is, again, if you do something morally wrong. And so what happens if you do something morally right at this point in your life, you get feelings of pride. If you do something that's morally wrong, you basically get feelings of guilt. Okay, so your conscience is bothering you. There's my air quotes. Okay, so that's the commonplace way that we phrase that. Right. So the reason I brought this up is because the way that the ego resolves differences, and there are obvious, big differences between what id wants and the superego wants, is to use what's known as defense mechanisms. Again, defense mechanisms, according to Freud, are different ways of resolving these issues or differences between the id and the superego. Okay, so Freud has a number of different ones. You can read through them. I'll just highlight a couple of ones that I want to mention. For the most part, we have repression, where these unconscious feelings and attitudes are repressed, or events that occurred in your life are repressed in your unconscious because they're just too painful to deal with in your daily life. We have regression, which is again slightly different in terms of the spelling, but regression is when you do things that are from your previous stages of development. So things like pouting, holding your breath, using baby talk. Okay, all those things would be fine ish as a 5-year-old, but certainly not very good as a 20-year-old. Right? So the example of Chris Morris that I have on the website as a web link would be an example of that. Chris Morris, a player on the New Jersey Nets back in the day, refused to go in the game and basically pouted. So pouting, not so good. All right. The other two that I really want to highlight here are sublimation and reaction formation. Basically, the sublimation is when you have these strong unconscious feelings of sex and aggression, but you channel them in socially appropriate ways. So Mike Tyson, for example, would have a strong id, but he would become a boxer and essentially one of the greatest boxers of all time. Okay, because that was the socially appropriate way of having an outlet for this strong id. Similar to that, but in the opposite direction, is reaction formation. In that particular case, you have these strong sexual and aggressive impulses, but outwardly you do the exact opposite behavior. Unfortunately, some examples of that are some politicians or clergy people or evangelists who were very, very anti-gay rights, but later we find out that they actually engaged in gay behaviors, sexual behaviors. Okay, the example I gave you here was Reggie White, the great Packers, Eagles linebacker. Basically, he had these aggressive impulses, but he was a man of faith and a man of peace. So essentially, he had these peaceful feelings in his unconscious, but the exact opposite emerged as he became one of the most feared football players of all time. Okay, so that's a wrap on the Freud and the defense mechanisms. I'll get into the neo-Freudians and the other theorists in the next video. Okay, thanks. See you soon.